And
There
we'll
we go.
that I'll talk because we are going to be pressed for time.
Well, then you might want to pick a different computer while I do that,
No, because
because it closes the screen.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
I spend my life talking to blank screens anyways in meetings. So we're going to be doing two different dishes here that we take to tea regularly, one more frequently than the other. One that I'm doing is the easier dish, but it probably takes a little bit longer cooking time, and that's the pea soup. And Pam is doing something called the spicy fried tofu. And these are the instructions for the pea soup.
It's not pasting.
Pam says it's not pasting. So maybe,
I'll try something else.
so she's
Just
gonna
keep
try
going.
something else. So can you see me on this screen? Certainly. There it does. Can you hear me? Hey,
You
Kathy,
talk
wait.
to this. Yeah, we can
Can
see.
you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I was just trying to find settings to see if there's anything wrong with the chat. I'm not seeing anything weird, so.
So here I have a pound of split dried peas that is one package basically. I have a pound of Normandy blend frozen vegetables, which is broccoli, cauliflower, and carrot. Those don't go in right away. And then I have a quartered onion. There's no reason to do anything other than peel it and quarter it. That goes in with the peas, and in goes 2 quarts of water, which I have staged to be hot already. And then I cook it for 20 minutes. Nothing is done at that point in time, but that is then when other things get added. So I'll add, oops, I top that off. So I will top approximately that off. I think I had about that much missing. And after putting in the second quart, I'll just simmer it for 20 minutes. And that will be Pam's cue to start her stuff.
Well, you keep talking while I work this
thing that
file.
Pam is going to do now is going to be a, as I said, it's going to be spicy fried tofu. There's a very big secret to the recipe that she's doing, and I should turn on the correct burner. That will help quite a lot. And the secret on her recipe is moisture control, moisture control, moisture control. Because if you don't do moisture control, you'll wind up with something akin to the paste that is used in paper mache. So that becomes a critical thing. And we may have to paste my recipe in at the end.
I've just uploaded a file to everybody.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Are you going to talk about this already? Do you have a preferred method for soaking moisture out of the tofu, or is that a lot of what you're going to talk about given his preview?
that's what I'm about to
Yeah,
talk
that's what
about.
I was going to talk about.
Okay, so what I've done, and I need to get out the package here. Excuse me, kitty cat. This is from Aldi. It's a 14-ounce package of tofu. And this is firm. Extra firm is easier to work with, but I went with firm because that's more common. And so you'll see what it's like to deal with firm. And what I've done is prepared it so that it's got less moisture already.
And if you don't even try this with silken tofu.
So what I've done over here is I put some weight on a cutting board, and underneath of that, and I'll change cameras now, is a towel and some paper towels because it's easier to see tofu against a dark background. I pressed the tofu for a little over an hour. And so there's a lot of moisture already out of it. Yeah, this dried out nicely. If you're going to do it for much more than an hour, it's a good idea to do it in the fridge because tofu spoils easily.
Do you need this?
Yes. So I'm gathering it up to cube it. Even do the cutting demo. Yay. Can you tell I've been watching Milk Street?
Pick up some of this food. Not sure.
And the slices were 1/2 inch thick, roughly. Different packages of tofu are going to come with different shapes. Sorry, that's my dishwasher draining. Differently shaped pads of tofu. So you just kind of have to work with them on how you cut them up. Okay, so that's nice and dry. And one of the things that I say in the instructions is have everything ready before you turn on the heat. So I'm going to dice up my garlic too. See how fine. And yeah, my hands are going to smell like garlic. Might have to switch microphones at some point, but we'll deal with that then. So my mom is always very interested during FaceTime because I do a lot of puttering in the kitchen when I'm cutting with the sharp knife. I don't know if she's worried I'm going to cut myself or what. But she also sometimes sleeps through the whole thing. Right. And I need to measure out my spices. And it starts with the dill in my mind because it's the one that's a full teaspoon. And everything else is a 1/2 teaspoon, except I don't put the turmeric in yet. Or into this blend of things. So far, I've thrown in cumin, dill, thyme. It's just some curry powder, and curry powders vary quite a bit. This is a very basic one from Weaver's Way Co-op. We get a lot of stuff bulk. Some of our own thyme. That's that. Now I'm going to measure out my soy sauce too. Couple of tablespoons, and I'm using low salt. You can always add more later and at serving, so you don't have to go nuts right away. So that's 2 tablespoons of that. And we're ready to go, I believe. Get all this out of my way. So now I can turn on the heat. Because I'm using olive oil, it can't take a lot of heat. So I'm going to keep the heat kind of low. You can use a higher heat tolerant oil, and this will go faster. You got to watch it closely though. And oh, and I haven't added the cayenne to my. Forgot to get that out. So I'm putting in 1 teaspoon. The teaspoon is right here. 1/2 teaspoon. And so I'm putting about a tablespoon and a half in my pan. I'm using a wok, but you can use a skillet. It's not as much fun. You have to watch things a little more closely. Okay, so that's heating up, and as soon as it will produce a sizzle, I'm going to put the tofu in.
I don't know what that's doing.
Goes here. So I've forgotten the cayenne. The cayenne is optional. You could try paprika. I have not. Just get a little piece of tofu here to see if it's going to sizzle. Not quite. Any questions? Guess I should be over here by the microphone. Nope. Okay. Here it goes, sizzling, yes.
You're done with it.
No. I'm just going to be browning my tofu over here. But I'm not going to go crazy about trying to get every side of it brown. But the drier it is, the more robust the cubes will be.
Can everybody hear?
So that's what it's looking like in the pan. I'm trying not to stir it too soon. If it sits a little while sizzling, it's less likely to stick, is my experience, but there are also times when it just totally sticks. But it looks like this is going to be a good time. It's not going to stick. Yay. It's of course easier with a non-stick skillet or wok. So now I just wait while that, and keep an eye on it so it doesn't burn, because that can add a little bitterness.
Did you ever go through the ingredients?
I went through all the spices and the tofu and chopped up the garlic and the other main ingredients. Got the soy sauce going and Nutri yeast. And this is a half a cup of Nutri yeast, which is quite a bit. We're using a lot of Nutri yeast for protein. A quarter cup would be fine, though.
Some people like it on popcorn.
So what's happening with yours, Paul?
Well, I'm approximately 60% of the way through the first 20 minutes of simmering. So I have 8 more minutes of simmering. The thing that I forgot to mention before I started is that it's very important to wash thoroughly the dry split peas, because if you don't, they foam, and I've not seen anything that substantiates this, but my theory is that when they're dehusked, they get a coating of sap from the plant, and if you don't wash that off, it just will, you'll have a very hard time with the thing foaming out of the pan. Because there is no oil in this recipe to control the foam.
So the dish I'm making, you can eat it either hot or cold. It can just be like little appetizer cubes, or if you want to make an entree out of it and put it on top of some rice. So I have a little bit of cilantro. I know some people don't dare have cilantro. It's not part of the original recipe, but I like to throw some on. And that's done at the very end.
Pam, what kind of knife is that?
It's a Henkel, but it's one that was designed for Milk Street with a Japanese design, like an hikiri, but a lot less expensive than the Japanese knife.
What's the name of the style again? I mean, I know you said Henkel, but you said it was a kind of like a Japanese kind. I didn't hear that word.
Yeah, I think the word is hikiri.
Hikiri. Okay.
And they were made in Spain. But it's I've really enjoyed it. got it for Paul, but I'm the one who's using it all the time. You know, that gift that you want to have in the house. Now that I'm done with it, I'm putting it away because I did a dress recording last night and there was a knife tumbling to the floor that was no fun. So these are just now starting to turn brown a little bit on, you know, whatever side was last down. So it won't be too much longer before I can start adding other ingredients to the wok. And if you shake the wok and they all kind of drop down more toward the center, because you want a single layer all the time, they cook faster because they're closer to the heat. And if a person were wanting to make, you know, a quantity of this, say they were having an event, we recommend going to H Mart or another Asian supermarket and getting tofu in a size this big, because it's a lot.
Wow.
It's like what, almost 5 pounds?
5.5.
5.5 pounds. But you got to make sure it's the firm, or else you're stuck with a bunch of soft tofu. We do that when we make baked tofu that we can then freeze and just be able to pull out of the deep freeze whenever we want something quick. Okay, we're going to be ready for this. Are you going to need the, how long before you blend?
Blending is 10 minutes work.
Okay.
Pardon?
I thought there was going to be. Never mind. So when I'm really being obsessive, I'll sit here and I'll turn like individual tofu cubes over to get them even. But that's not really necessary, because they're going to be all coated with herbs and nutrients anyway.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to pretend that the 18 minutes I've been simmering is now 20 minutes. And at this point in time, I'll add 20 minutes. And the only ingredient to add will be the frozen vegetables. And they will cook again for 20 minutes before applying the immersion blender. So I should have said at the outset that this is convenient to do with an immersion blender.
Yeah, without an immersion blender, I hope you have a really big food processor or blender. Not a lot of
And you just want everything just covered for the rest of the cooking process.
So I was trying to remember last night, and I think that Paul has had that walk since 1984. And I gave it to him when he moved to Atchison from Boulder.
Good investment.
And one thing which really helps a lot with the soup is having one of these electric hot pots, kettles, water kettle. I don't know how we functioned before we got one. So you want to do water? I'm gonna try to move this a little closer without getting caught up in my cord.
So this is why I said that Pam is doing the hard thing and I'm doing the easy thing. I just have to stand.
Sorry for all the crazy angle there. There, okay. This is brown enough to go ahead and add the turmeric. And that's the spice, the only spice that's added separately. So a half a teaspoon of turmeric goes in. We'll toss it around. So the tofu is kind of pretty yellow. You can see the yellow of it there. And you have to do the turmeric first, otherwise the other spices keep it from sticking so well to the tofu. And now I have my other spices. Toss those in. And this is another good reason to have the heat kind of low, because the cayenne, when it hits the hot oil, it's going to want to fly up in the air, and that can be hard on the throat and the lungs and the eyes. And I don't want to turn on the fan because that'll be a big, loud, obnoxious noise. Here it goes. And you got to keep stirring at this point and keep the herbs and spices from burning. So now they're kind of pretty with all the herbs stuck to them, the spices. It smells really good. Toss in the garlic. And this is a little more garlic than the recipe said. I think the recipe said 2 teaspoons, and that was probably closer to a tablespoon. So our measures are always going to be a bit extravagant. The recipe is the more cautious quantity. And you don't really want to cook the garlic. You just want it to get a little warmed up. So that's another place that the spice is going to come from. Not a nutty flavor from cooking it a while, but just kind of heat it up. It's barely cooked. Now we throw in the soy sauce or tamari. And to keep it gluten-free, go for tamari.
Wheat-free tamari.
Wheat-free tamari. so that added a little bit of moisture there that I need to cook down just a tiny bit. And it's time for the Nutri-Yeast. You sprinkle that all around in there. And if you go for the more conservative amount in the recipe, you can always use less to your taste. That's what that would look like. And you just kind of gently toss so that you don't break the tofu. And that's what it would look like with a 1/4 cup. Here's what it'll look like if you go nuts like we do. See, there's a lot more of the Nutri-Yeast. And it gives it kind of a cheesiness. And I keep the heat really low now, and I can just let it sit there and stay warm while the other things are finishing up. The trick, if it's low enough, it'll be fine. And since it cools off really quickly, I try to keep at least some heat on it. I just have to remember to turn the burner off when we actually serve. And my dish is done in record time. So thank you for this opportunity to work on my technique.
I picked up some tips for when I do tofu. Thank you.
So we're just now waiting for the soup to finish.
Yeah. And we're about 10 minutes into the second simmer. The vegetables are getting to the point that they cut with the edge of the spatula, which they're not quite there yet. But they are getting there.
I have no idea if this is a good view. My main goal is to not drop the phone into the hot soup.
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks.
And so the only other spicing left on the soup is the tamari, and I use tamari for salt. But sometimes Pam will add salt to her portion. But usually I just add the tamari. And then garam masala, which is an Indian spice that you've all probably had. But the remaining spicing is a 1/4 cup of tamari and a teaspoon of garam masala. The one thing that I'm waiting for on the soup right now, if the secret of the dish Pam made is moisture control, the secret of my dish is don't puree too soon, because if you do, you create a risk of it sticking, so you have to babysit it more, make sure it doesn't stick, and then it will also boil like a mud pot in Yellowstone Park, and it will splatter you with boiling hot soup. So,
Sounds great.
yeah, so the first blending, and I'll get the immersion blender out, is what I call a coarse chop. And that basically is, reduce the vegetables to something between, say, a kidney bean and a peanut in size. And that seems to prevent it from either sticking or boiling with violence. And it does help it cook a little bit more. I'll go ahead and blend it because the cauliflower's cutting.
We could also just socialize if you need to stall. We're way ahead on time.
Well, it's. One habit we got into is we take our oven knobs off because we had a cat that we were worried would turn on the gas.
Yeah, we got child-proof covers for ours when Elena was 10 or something, because we realized she didn't recognize the smell if she was home alone. Taking the knobs off with her.
Yeah, I think I can blend this now somewhat safely.
And we might mute during that because it's kind of loud. But, what I'm doing now is putting a little bit of rice on a plate. See.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and blend. So do you want to do the muting?
Let me do this first.
Okay.
So I've plated up a little sample. That's what it looks like. Proportion wise, that's kind of, I might have wanted a little more rice because each one of these has a lot of flavor. And then I like salt. I would probably add more soy sauce to my rice.
Yeah, this is one of the few recipes where you get to creatively use dill. And it works really pretty well.
Okay, Paul's getting ready to make a lot of noise. I'm going to mute. I'll mute after he gets going.
Okay.
It's actually not too bad from here. How is it for you guys? It's fine, Paul. We don't need to mute.
I'm on low.
I can't tell if my phone is broadcasting or not. Nope, it seems to have stopped.
No camera on. It's still there, but the video's off, which is odd for a phone. I don't know.
So it still is doing a rolling blend or a rolling boil, but you can see that there's that has been reduced to
Sorry.
something other than a puree. And now I'll just put that back on the burner. And I think the other thing that happens here is because now the peas have been mashed up a bit more, their starches can thicken a little bit, although they don't thicken the way you would expect, say, a flour blend to thicken, or a gravy based on something like that, but it does thicken a little bit. And I'll just add the 1/4 cup of tamari and the the teaspoon of garam masala. And I didn't put down a measurement. Well, I think I did put down a measurement on the pepper, but I tend to go light on the pepper. One of the things about this is that kids seem to like it. And so you don't want to load it up too much with pepper because they have sensitive taste buds. And it allows them to eat peas and broccoli and cauliflower and carrot. So it's sort of good to keep the pepper a bit light so as to not overwhelm their taste buds.
I don't know what happened to my other video, but when I was going to point out that the tool is going to get a little sticky with the soy sauce and the Nutri-Yeast. And for us, I just scraped this off into the wok, but if you were trying to do something super pretty, you might not. But I want all those spices. And the Nutri-Yeast has continued to kind of toast on this low heat, which is nice for the flavor. So.
What do they do with the...
So that's pretty much it. He's going to blend that again, and we'll put it in bowls and eat. Mine's done. Questions, comments?
And now I'm aggressively trying to puree it. So I'll be using high RPM.
And this is a dish that you can either put the onions in or not. Some people, can't have onion or really would rather not. And it doesn't suffer from the absence of the onion. And now
And
it's, go ahead.
now you can, if Pam is able to,
Yeah, I can show you the,
that's what happens if you puree it too soon.
you're standing in the light. Well,
It's very hard to get good help these days.
actually, I don't know if you can see how it's like doing the Yellowstone paint pot things or not.
And
I don't have good light.
it probably needs a little bit more water, so I'll adjust the water, but and turn down the heat a bit. The property of this soup is If you have leftovers, it will require a little bit of water the next day because the legumes, the starches just seem to soak up the water. But it scales well, so you can do multiple multiplications of the batch, and it freezes well, although it's easy enough that freezing it is not really, doesn't really buy you much of anything because it takes as much time to thaw it.
I'm hungry. Right, I'm gonna go bowl. And we'll be able to splash a little bit into this bowl so you can get a good look at it. You just put a flame tamer underneath it so it's less likely to scorch.
If you have a clear glass bowl, it'll be easier to see the soup.
Clear glass?
Measuring, yeah, or a measuring cup or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. I can do that.
That may crack that. That's not Pyrex.
Put it over here.
This
There we go.
to demo the
And that's how thick it is. Tomorrow it'd be much thicker. And different types of garam masala have, different characters. This one has got a fair amount of cinnamon to it. And
Looks,
my inclination is to add salt immediately, but that's just me.
So they're both done.
Thank you. So that was impressive in that amount of time. So, and looks very pretty. We're all hungry now.
Actually, it smells pretty good here.
Well, thanks so much for doing this. Anybody have any questions about anything or?
Have other folks cooked tofu?
I cook tofu pretty frequently. And I think I've sort of picked up some of the things. I don't think I'm patient enough about pressing it. I'm usually doing it closer to last minute than is really ideal.
Well, and other dishes, it may not matter so much.
Yeah.
This one, dry really matters. Or you've got all that time trying to evaporate off the liquid.
Right. And it's probably easier to move when it's drier, to move around in the pan without it just breaking apart. So yeah. But yeah, we do. That's one of the proteins that will get eaten here. So Oh, now we have someone, wait, we have someone joining. They- Maybe Val will have a question.
Hey, Val.
Hey,
Hi,
Val.
Val.
Sorry to be late. Hi.
Well, you can, one of the screens should show you the finished product.
Okay, that looks that one with your name on it, whatever. it is. Yeah, that one. I guess it's not Jim Moskin, huh?
No, it's not.
Well, we were so concerned with getting it all done in a timely fashion. We don't really have anything else to
Oh,
say.
that's all right. I just.
No, that's all right.
I'm
We can
sorry. I
socialize
had
with
something else
people.
I had to get done, and so it
That's
happened.
all right. We'll give a chance, yeah, to say hi to Val and
Yeah.
you were, I don't think I don't know, you said you uploaded, actually, I'm gonna stop recording.